you remember Lee Atwater,
Of
right?
course, yes. You knew him
Okay, so
very
well,
well, right? You worked for him.
he
You were his chief of staff, if I recall right.
I was his chief of staff, and then at the pinnacle of his life and career, age 39, he gets brain cancer.
Yeah.
And one of my jobs as the chief of staff was the best job I ever had. We cut an album with B.B. King and Sam and Dave. I mean, he was a very interesting guy.
What?
And in his
What? Sorry, hold on a minute.
oh, Red Hot
Atwater
and
cut an
Blue,
album?
look at it. The
Okay.
first thing we did, do you remember Bush's inaugural with Bush? There's a famous picture of Poppy Bush doing imitating Atwater's version of imitating Mick Jagger with the guitar. Do you remember this? You
Yeah,
don't
I
remember
do
that?
vaguely, yes.
All right, so then the first job I had when we moved over to the RNC, and then all the politics was done at the RNC. Bush didn't want any politics in the White House. Reagan didn't want any politics in the White House. All the political operatives of any merit were at the RNC. So Atwater, Bush, he worked for Reagan in the White House, but when it was time to do real politics, we all wanted to be at the RNC. So Bush wanted me in the White House, and I said, no, I want to go with Atwater. I want to be at the feet of the man, because that's how I'm going to help you the most. Anyway, so we got as close as you can get to somebody who's as impenetrable, like that kind of brain. He was also acutely ADHD and all this stuff.
You're talking about Atwater?
Yeah, and when he was
Okay.
dying, talk about suffering. 39, his wife was 8 months pregnant. This is why all this fell to me to do what I'm about to describe. But he was, I don't want to say he was an atheist. He just was a nothingness. But he did what I suspect many people do when they know they're dying, and particularly in that inexplicable 39 brain cancer, horrifying way. He had me line up a bunch of religious advisors, and he was desperate to find his God. So we had a rabbi, we had a imam, we had a Catholic guy, and I'm like, all of it's in one ear and out the other. But the priest guy said, when Atwater queried him about why did God come back as Jesus, he said because the point was to teach humans, and the only way to teach humans is to be a human. Like, what was he going to? Otherwise, he would have come back as a cow and I always remember they said, come back as a cow. And at the time, I said, shut the guy's dying, give him something better than that. But it's never left me, okay? Why did God send a human form to tell us all this instead of a bird or fire or something like that? So, and that, I've seen many cows weeping, mothers, but the whole, like, everything that Jesus experienced was the absolute epitome of the range of things that a human could experience, but the very epitome of it is. That's the only way I can explain.
When Atwater confronted suffering, was that a different experience for him? Tell a little bit about him. I mean, he has this reputation of being sort of the demon of racism, as it were, that he exploited racial questions to win elections.
I can't. This is where I go into, like, I have to find a more efficient, sustainable coping mechanism for the anger that attends my reaction
to that.
To
I'm bringing it up because that's what people are going to hear.
I understand this. Okay, so I was well pissed off about everything is racist or bigoted or this or that during that thing, because it's all predicated from the revolving door. Was it the Massachusetts thing? Who is that guy? You know,
Willie Horton.
Willie Horton.
Yeah.
Okay, where do we get Willie Horton? We got Willie Horton from Al Gore, who ran it in the primaries. Okay, so we didn't discover him, and to Willie Horton then and now today is the equivalent of irrational suffering that could have been avoided. In that, so there's a way of controlling it by avoiding it.
Like keeping people in jail.
Or keeping criminals vetting criminals and terrorists before they come over the border. Okay, you can't
Right.
call that racism. You can call it imbalance or unfairness or whatever, but that wasn't the number one thing in politics and in life, in existence before the written word, was personal security. Okay, people, you can see it again now, like people.
Yes.
And that's why and Lee did not. Lee, we had all that stuff from Gore, but nobody wanted to use it until Lee. Here's what Lee used to do, which none of these grifters do today, except for James, who's just nuts. But that's another whole topic. But what Atwater does, and what the best guys do, is they don't talk to each other. They go out, and he used to go to Applebee's. That was the thing then. Or somebody subsequently made it Applebee's, but he would go to Cracker Barrel, or he would go to Dunkin' Donuts, and he was from the South, and he because he was a music guy, he hung out with all the black rhythm and blues, the R&B guys. So he, in the album we cut, was I'm trying to think if there's any white guys on it. I don't think, but it wasn't like that wasn't the issue.
Right, the idea that he was a racist somehow, in as much as we mean it as someone who's inherently prejudiced against African Americans for some unaccountable reason, just not true, just completely not true.
It's 100% not true. 100% not true.